everyone. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Well, it's morning as I'm recording this. I don't know when you'll be watching it. Um, I wanted to say a few words on a greatly misunderstood vernacular. And as you know, um, I'm always talking about, or repeating, I should say, the words of Shakyamuni Buddha and Nichiren, uh, not to get overwhelmed or overoccupied by the words of the teachings, uh, but to instead try to cultivate an understanding of the meaning of what is being communicated. Uh, on that, uh, one of my motivators for doing these talks is to try to interpret the translations and the language of Buddhism in a way that is, as I see it, more strictly Buddhist and revolves around the meaning of the statements and the translations. And I keep saying translations because we can see all over no matter how great the scholarship is of the books and treatises and commentary and actual sutras that we read, they are translations, and they are translations from a Western perspective. Even so much as the West has pushed itself into Asia and done great influential takeovers, if you will, of cultures. It's amazing to me that you can go into uh, the countryside of China or India and find these vehement Christians. It just amazes me that cultures that started with such beautiful, colorful understanding of the world are so easily shifted to this paradigm of otherness. Not that they didn't have their own, but and it's not specifically Christianity, but speaking from my frame of reference in the United States, the rhetoric of Christianity is in everything. And certainly professors in academia from England have their own stance in that regard. So the word that I put on the splash screen at the beginning of this video, and the word that I'm going to focus on today, is worship. I have heard and read the most incredible things using words like worship and faith and so forth. These are very, very religious words. Okay? The word worship literally means reverence and adoration of deity, whether it's through practice or rituals or whatever. It's all about this deity thing. And this, you know, this is so not Buddhist. It drives me crazy. It's antithetical to Buddhist thinking. I actually heard, and this affects all sects of Buddhism. Certainly, and you hear Nichiren railing against the Nembutsu all the time. This chanting of Amitabha Buddha. Why are you chanting the name of a fictitious creation used for teaching concepts as your? Why are you worshiping that? You're deifying this term, this thought. You may as well be singing about the spaghetti dragon. It's nuts. Okay? And this is the fetish, the cult of human mind and ego. Because truly, if you think about it, the only way you can conceive of an omniscient outside power outside of your self, and there it is. It is this super attachment to the idea of self, the identity, the singular identity of self, the unique identity of self. It is supremely arrogant, and it's disguised through the projection of self as gods, as deities. This is not Buddhism. So let's be clear on that. We do not worship. Buddhists do not worship. Just the word, we don't do that. I actually heard way back in the days of the NSA in the United States, a leader telling a room full of people that we worship this scroll, this piece of paper, he called it. Now, to be clear, I don't have a problem with him calling the Gohonzon a piece of paper. To quote Nichiren, never seek this Gohonzon outside yourself. But he wasn't talking about the piece of paper, Nichiren was. Nichiren was talking about this concept of Myoho Renge Kyo. The Buddha itself, not himself. We don't worship a Buddha. Shakyamuni said, don't do that. We don't worship, period. The whole practice of Buddhism is about clarification of perception, getting the self and everything that's glued to self, like other, out of the way so that we can clearly experience this universal, and I do mean universal, process of life. Life not just of you and me, not just of flowers and trees, not even just of the earth, but of the entire process that manifests. To quote Shakyamuni himself in the Surangama Sutra about meditation, to cease the formations of. You see, you and I, the planet, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe, all of it is a formation. If you want to dig into what the Buddhist concept of formation is, study on the 12-length causal chain, study the Nidana. It's very early in the teachings of Buddhism that Shakyamuni introduces this. But it's quickly put aside as, oh yeah, that's interesting. It's complicated. So let's go do this. You're missing it. I did a whole series of videos on the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment, the origins of life. And as difficult as it was to come up with some kind of words, rhetoric, a vernacular to touch on this, I keep coming back to it. This quiescent energy creating formations, countless, unknowable numbers of little formations that compound on one another to congeal, if you will, into some form of energy, matter. You get it? This is what our practice of Buddhism is to get out of the way so that we can have a more total experience of manifestation. We're awed by it. We're awestruck by the process of life that manifests for us in samsara this ability to be awestruck. We don't worship it. We have deep, abiding respect for it, appreciation for it, right? But that's not worshiping. We don't deify it. And we don't have faith that maybe it will come to us. It's already here. That's not faith. That's resolve. That's deep, deep knowing, profound understanding. That's what we seek in our Buddhist practice. So when in Buddhism we say truth, we're not talking about some relative truth that, like you hear the cliches all the time. Yeah, well, everyone has personal truth. Your truth may not be my truth. Okay, you can traffic in all of that baloney. Okay, but that's all self-attached. That's all attached to identity. Listen to the words. Your truth is not my truth. No, if it's true, it's just true. And this was the goal of Shakyamuni Buddha from the start. He wanted to discover this universal, non-identifiable, non-discriminable reality. That reality, that is the Dharma. All the other words, teachings, so on and so forth, surrounding the Dharma are just that. They're samsaric patterns of noise-making to lead us to some clarity, to this Dharma, this quiescent energy and its formations. We don't want to kill the formations. We want to cease our attachment to the formations as human beings, because this isn't nihilistic. You could easily say, well, if we want to end formations, then, just end your life. Because our life is a process of moment-to-moment formations, is it not? But if you can have the mindfulness to understand that in each and every one of these moments, we are forming self and other and so on and so forth, so that we can observe it rather than be in it. See, you can get caught up in rapids, and no matter how hard you swim, it'll be extremely difficult to get out of the streams that are the rapids, right? But if you can just put yourself on the shore, watching yourself in the rapids, you feel totally differently about what it is you're experiencing. You are experiencing. You are in the rapids. But if you know it objectively, outside of the rapids, then you don't fault the rapids. You don't hate yourself even for being there. What you do is you understand the nature and the process of the rapids. And by doing so, you release yourself from the suffering of the rapids. And this is where compassion comes in. Because obviously, once you see the power of the rapids and what they wreak, then not only for yourself, but for everything around you that may be in the rapids, you want to remove them from the rapids. You want to help them get to shore. These analogies are in Buddhism. The ship to cross the sea of suffering. See the sea as rapids, if you will, full of our fellow man. There's nothing in that that's deified. There's nothing in that that's worshiping. How this word creeps into everything. Whether you understand what the actual word worship means or not, it comes with that baggage. And when you read it, your lizard brain just, or maybe not but your consciousness receives it and goes, okay, it's worshiping. It's like a disease. So I want you, every time you see, when you read stuff, when you see that word pop up, like worship or faith, I want you have this little Buddhist man in your mind, this voice that says, we don't do that. I think everything you read will start to sound different to you. You will start to understand where the little tripwires are in translations, in conversations. You're free to disagree with me, of course, and make arguments for it, but I think when you objectively look at the situation, you will see that I'm right. And when Nichiren spends all this time talking about bad teachers, good teachers, like we just reviewed in the last Go Show, he's not talking about people with bad intent or evil intent. There are those, obviously, there always are. But more generally, he makes a point of saying these people are not understanding the breadth of the teachings. They are not taking into account the structure of the teachings and the culminating teachings. And for whatever reason, their own ego obviously is getting in the way. They've chosen and picked and choose, as he would say, the passages in the scriptures that suits their understanding and their desires for enlightenment. But you see, it's still a desire for enlightenment. They still are great, I shouldn't say great, but they still are quite popular priests, even though some of their motives may be political and so forth. They're trying to survive, and they're trying to do a good thing, and they're trying to teach others. All of that is wonderful, but if it's all based on a misunderstanding, then they really are spreading poison. It's not that they woke up one morning and said, I can use Buddhism to really take advantage of people. Now, granted, there are those, because that's an egotistic thing. That's what human beings do. We're very ego-driven, which is why we have all this rhetoric about worship and deification and other. But this is exactly the thing Buddhism is attacking, wanting to end, wanting to dissect and eschew, get rid of it. Stop attaching that to everything you think. I'm sorry, I'm congested. I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps you. Use it as a tool. Like I said, that little man in there, that little woman, that little girl, that little boy, whatever it is your voice is, let it be there. Be attentive. Be mindful that what is going in through your eyes and translated by your brain to more deeply understand this profound teaching. Don't let those words, those concepts, that baggage add to the obfuscation you already have to attain your clarity of mind, your Buddha mind. Right? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you so much for giving this a listen. I hope it helps you in your study. Comment if you have questions about what I just said, if it didn't make sense. I want to know. I want to address it. That's why I'm putting myself out here. So, thanks again. TLK is on Patreon, on Cocoscope, Facebook. Go to my website, threefoldlotus.com. It's a good resource site. I try to put important documents up there to help you study. Other than that, just keep on practicing. This will become clear, I promise you. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Take care.